Bodacious bunnies. So last time we basically finished off our sound, and we had already had sounds on these keyframes for our transitions, and then we put sounds on our actual buttons inside here on the downstate, so sounds would play on our buttons. And what we really messed with a lot was our soundtrack sound, where we have it selected in the properties panel, we set it to loop, and we did all that funkiness where, first of all, it wouldn't play until the user actually clicks a button. And then once it does play, it kept repeating over itself as we keep going back to the home page. So our solution was to create this start page. It's just sitting here. We press start, it plays the timeline, begins the sound, and then stops on our home page. Then as we jump around from page to page and jump back home, it never hits this again. Different way, which I think might even be a little more elegant than having it on the timeline here, and that was to actually put it on the start button. Again, because you do need to make sure the user presses a button to hear the sound, but you could, in theory, instead of this button noise, I could have added the actual music and even made it loop just when I push the button down, and then that should start it off and get it going. So that might be something to be aware of in your own project if you've got background music, that maybe instead of playing through a keyframe we never revisit, putting that looped music actually on the first button the user has to click to begin your program be a good way to do it too. Okay, so anyway, we've learned how we can create graphics, import graphics, we can animate, we can move, rotate, scale, we can fade in. Using the timeline and these frame labels, we can use buttons to just kind of organize things to make different pages show up at different places. We can use movie clips to combine different symbols and organize things so we can animate it all together in these page transitions. So graphics, animation, now we've done audio and interactivity, being able to jump around, have the user control what's going on. The last thing we really need to learn to put all this soup together is how to add video. Now video is actually pretty easy to add, but it's a little interesting the way it works a little differently compared to other items that you import, like an image or a piece of sound, because when you import an image or an audio clip, it actually goes into the library and it's actually part of the FLA file. So I could actually delete the images out of my assets folder, I could delete the sounds out of my assets folder, and it'll still be in here, it'll still work. Video works a little differently. Video never gets imported into this. Video just kind of gets linked to. And the reason is our HTML5 Canvas element that we're using that supports all of our graphics and our animations and our interactivity, it does not support video. Video is a separate HTML tag. And what we do is we use this thing called a component, which I'll show you guys in a moment after we go get a video. But we use a component which will automatically at runtime kind of build an HTML tag for us to throw a video on and slap it on top of everything else. It works really nicely. The only caveat is that we can't really, at least within reason, without doing some heavy coding, we can't place anything on top of the video. So the video is going to be on top of anything else. So before we actually get a video and everything, the first thing I want to do is let's actually set up a new page to house this video and then a new button on our home page to get to it. The first thing I want to do is let's just go over past page 4. It doesn't matter where it is. I'm just going to go to 140 here because that's a full second after my final page ends here. What I'm doing is creating a keyframe, and then I want to label that keyframe video. All right, just creating a new spot for a new thing. Hey, maybe I'll even go back here, just even it out there. All right, so a new spot for a new thing. That's always the first step, is just to create a spot on the timeline for it. On our code layer, our keyframe, just anywhere after the final page and our video label. So we're going to leave the background, but we don't want the page there. Put in a regular keyframe. So now I have just a single video label, and in the spot where my video label is, I keyframed this page, which just happens to be right now page 4, the Flopsy page. But I just want to use this as a template for my video page, so I'm going to right click it and choose duplicate symbol. Done that a few times, and instead of page 4, I'm just going to name it video. Okay, so if I look at my library, now I've got this movie clip named video. So I know it's separate from that page 4 that I copied. And now I'm going to double click to go inside of my video movie clip. And the code and the back button, I'm going to leave exactly the same on these layers because that's just going to work for me to go back. I'm actually going to change the title. Instead of Flopsy, we're going to say Funny in Motion. Great, that'll be our title. And then I'm going to get rid of the image mask and image layers. I don't want those at all. All right, so I just have this Bunny in Motion title with blankness in the page, and then the back button that should still work. Now, let's put a new layer in there. I'm going to put it at the very bottom underneath code, back, and name. And I'm going to name it video. I'm going to come back to this in a little bit and actually add the video in here. But before we do that, we have to go find the video, prepare it in our assets panel. Even before that, I want to set it up so we can actually get to this page. Okay, so I'm going to go back up to the main timeline, and we've got our video keyframe with our video label, and directly under it on our pages layer, we've got our keyframed new page that we just made by duplicating the previous page, and this is named video. And now we've got a spot that we can't get to, so let's set up a button to actually go to and stop this video location, which we would then be able to click back and jump back home. So the idea would be for us to put a video link on our home page. So I'm going to keep with the simplicity of reusing buttons. So we reused our back button in order to create our start button. I think I'm going to keep it the exact same as the start button. So I could drag a copy of the start button from the library, but I'm just going to copy and paste it on the actual stage. So I'm on my buttons layer. I'm just going to copy this start button here. And now I want this to be on my home page. So I'm going to go to where my home page is. It's really just the next keyframe here on the buttons layer. And I'm going to paste in my start button. And then instead of it being slapped in the middle of the screen, I'm going to use Shift and the down arrow key a few times to nudge it until it goes down here. In fact, that contrast isn't very strong between the white and my gradient down there. So instead of down there, I'm going to nudge it up here. Okay, nudge it a little more so it looks nice and centered there. All right, now we don't want this to say start. We're going to want this to say like view video or something like that. So let's go ahead and set up this button to be a separate button and to change its label. So to do that, once again, just like we duplicated our page, let's go ahead and duplicate this button. So I'm going to right click on this start button that I copied out of my home page and choose duplicate symbol. Again, notice how often I keep duplicating things and reusing things. It not only makes things faster, but it also keeps things consistent. So now all of our different buttons kind of have the same styles. So this button name, instead of start copy, I'm going to name this view video. I'm going to use camel case here. I have a lowercase view or V in view and an uppercase V in video. And name that view video. See it made this view video button in my library, and now that it's a separate button, now I'm going to double click inside of my new view video button, and I'm going to change the text to say view video on both my upstate and my overstate. Okay, so first my up state, so start, change it to say view video. And this seems a little big compared to my header here, so I'm actually going to make this font a little smaller too. Maybe instead of 48, maybe I'll go half that size and go down to 24. Make my view video button a little less important on the hierarchy here. I'm going to center it back down once I, whoops, did it even let me do that? Yeah, using the align panel to center it again once I change that. Then do the same thing on the other one. Change that to view video. Change my size to 24. Use the align panel to kind of nudge it back down, making sure align to stage is checked. Centers it again. And I've still got my button sound to play on the down state, which is fine. And then I've got my hit state, which is this big red box, which isn't overlaying any of the other buttons, takes up a little of the title, but that's fine. Like maybe I'll scale this down a little bit using the free transform tool, just so we're not like overlaying the title. But it's pretty common to have a hit state that's quite a bit larger than the actual button area. All right, so now I've got my new view video button. And it's up and over state, ready to go. It's hit state, ready to go. We can go back up here. The first step after we have a button actually set up, before we ever open the code panel or anything, is we always, always, always want to make sure that the button has an instance name. Now in this case, it does have an instance name, but it has the wrong one. It's not start. We already have a start button. We're telling that what to do. This instance name just still says start because I duplicated that symbol, so I need to change it. I'm going to change it from start to view video. Just like the symbol name. I'm going to use the camel case and everything like this. So now that my button has a view video instance name, now I can actually talk to it in the code. We want to decide where to put the code. Typically, when you're putting code for a button, you want to put the code on the keyframe that's directly, above that button, where that button lives. So for example, we have code on our home keyframe here, and that's where we're going to want to put this with all this other button code. We definitely do not want to put the code for the view video button over here on frame 1 on the start page where we have the start button code, because it wouldn't be able to find it. It's not actually there in the timeline. That's something to remember, is that when you're adding code to make buttons work, you need to make sure that you're putting it on a keyframe where it can actually find that button you're talking to on the timeline. So it wouldn't work if I put the code here, because that button's not on the timeline. It wouldn't work if I put it over on page 1 or anywhere over here, so it wouldn't be able to find it. The home page is the only place this view video button exists, so this is where we're going to add our code. I'm going to select the code keyframe on the home page here, to open up the actions panel. And now I'm going to just put it below one of these. I'm just going to type it out. You're welcome to kind of copy and paste and then change what needs to be changed. Here, I'll change my preferences and make my font a little larger so you can see this code a little better. How about I'll go to like 16 instead of 12, so it's not too huge for me. Okay, so I'm just going to the bottom here, give myself an extra space, and I'm going to say this dot view video dot on click function, and I'll close my function. Okay, so you may get to the point where you just memorize that and type it out, but you don't have to. You can always just copy one of these and paste it, and then what you need to change is change the button name. So it should say this dot view video, and that's going to make it when the on clicks, when we actually click it, it's going to run what's inside of this function. So I'm going to copy this timeline.goToAndPlay, stick it in there, and we don't have a transition for our video page. It's just sitting there. So that's one clue that we're actually going to want to set this timeline.goto and stop. We don't want it to play because then it would just hit this, play, and then loop back to the beginning to our start page unless we put a stop in somewhere. But we're not going to add a transition. We don't need to for our video page. Our video will be exciting enough on its own. So I go back over here, and now I just need to change the frame label for where I want it to go. View video. All right, so just like we've done before, we just list out the instance name of the button on the stage that's living on this keyframe right in the same spot, and tell it when we click it, we want to do a thing, and we're going to tell the timeline, which we're defining as this in our variable up here. We're going to tell the timeline to go to and stop our view video page. Chris, what are you doing? That's not going to work. There we go. The button is named view video. The page I'm going to is named video because that's what I named the frame label here. Now, get in, and we get up to our Bunny in Motion page. Back. All the stuff still works. I'm going to save this, and next up we're going to actually go get a video on the internet, and then I'll show you how easy it is to add a video. All right, so just like when we were finding our bunny images, or we got our bunny noises, our sounds, we need to go consult the mighty internet for getting a bunny video. Okay, I'm going to open up Chrome, and unlike using the search.creativecommons.org when we were finding content, we were finding images, or using our free sounds website for getting sounds, I'm going to kind of break copyright rule here and just steal a video off of YouTube. So let me go to YouTube, and I'm just going to type in, let's say, how about baby bunny. See what we get. Oh my gosh. Look at all these baby bunnies. Oh, there's a baby bunny with a piece of corn and a cat with eggs. Whoa, those are a little too tiny. They look like little rat bunnies. Look at these little baby bunnies. I'm just going to use this one, 4.5 million views, and we will start with this baby bunny. I am going to just copy the address. If you don't know how to gank a YouTube video, I'm going to show you. It's quite easy. Let's see, this one's 5 minutes long. I need to actually open the video and copy the link for the video. This is not the way to download a copyrighted video. Just for a quick little project and showing you the example. Sometimes it's worth knowing how to just grab something to use as a placeholder. A lot of these, sometimes they can be filled with, trashy ads and stuff like that, just because they're not really copyright, all that. But if you have a YouTube thing, I'm going to convert this one. There we go. All kinds of trashy ads it's trying to get me to open. I don't want any of these. But ultimately, we want an MP4 file, okay? So you don't necessarily have to steal it from YouTube. You can create your own video if you're into using Premiere and After Effects, or if you're just download a video, like, for example, while this is publishing, if I go to, like, gettyimages.com that has a bunch of paid stuff, I could search for a baby bunny on here. You'll probably find some amazing videos that we'd have to pay for. Might even be able to download a comp. All right, that one's pretty cute. But regardless, just understand the format you need is an MP4. All right. I have to download it here now. Looks like it did. Okay, so it's downloading, and it looks like I've got it. Okay, it's not probably the most exciting baby bunny video, but we've got a baby bunny video. And notice that it's pretty small too. That's something else to be aware of, is when you're preparing a video, whether you're stealing it from YouTube or downloading a comp from a video service or making your own video or whatever, be sure it's an MP4 file. That's really important. And then also be sure, just like with images, an image needs to be sized down appropriately to fit on your stage. Make sure the video is not going to be too big. This is relatively small. This is going to be perfect, actually, because we've got kind of a small stage. I don't want a huge HD video and then have to size it down and make users download a lot more than they would necessarily need. So, okay, I have my video finally. So I'm going to go now into my website project folder here, and I'm going to move the video into my assets folder, the same place where I keep my images and my sounds that I've imported. So from my downloads, now I have this Harley Quinn Baby Bunnies days 1 through 25.mp4. It's ready to go. It's telling me it's just about 30 megabytes. You're going to give me the dimensions. Yep, it's even telling me it's 640 by 360, which is a great size for our thing. I've got it in my assets folder. Oops. It's the first step. And it's interesting because it's actually going to pull it from this folder. And when it publishes, it's going to create a new folder named videos. And it's going to take a copy of it from this assets folder and move it into the videos folder. The same way that it takes copies of the sounds that we imported and automatically puts them in this sounds folder. Now, interestingly, we can't just put our video in a videos folder because it won't work. It needs to copy from one place and actually do it. So to add the video inside of Animate, finally, the moment you've all been waiting for, is let's all go over to our video page. And let's double click it to go inside of it. I'm going to click on the title. Double click it, you can see scene 1 video. I'm inside of my video page. And now I'm going to, on my video layer that right now just has an empty keyframe, there's nothing on it, I want to open the components panel. You can find it by going to Window, Components. And it'll probably just open up floating in the middle of your screen for the first time. You can open up Window Components and you should see User Interface. There's a bunch of like form components. These are all just separate HTML tags, different things that the Canvas doesn't support that we can kind of add into our HTML page and have it work all magically behind the scenes. But you should see this video folder and have this one video component. You want to take this video component and drag it onto the stage. Whoops. Oh no, we made a horrible mistake. This says you cannot place a symbol inside itself. That is freaking out because I named this page video, and apparently it doesn't like that. So before I'm able to add the component, I need to go into my library and change my movie clip video name to be called, how about video page? Great. So I have a view video button and a video page movie clip. And that happened because as soon as we add this to the timeline, it's going to put this video component in our library, and it doesn't want to have something that already has the same name there. So all I had to do is rename the name of that movie clip. So now that I renamed the name of that movie clip to video page, again, I just went into the library, found my video movie clip, double-clicked the name, changed it. Now that it's changed, now I should be able to drag my video component onto the stage. There we go. So I see this little box that says video in it. And with this box, for right now at least, I'm going to center it on the stage by opening up the align panel with the little center things, making sure align to stage is checked. And now we want to open another panel, the component parameters panel. See, it's not in the properties anymore, is it? No, component parameters. So you have the components panel, again, window components, and that's where we're able to drag this video component onto the stage. If I look at my library, I can see that it added this video component, and it's got this funky little icon right here. And then you want to go to window component parameters and have that open. Again, it's probably floating out here like this. When you first open it, I kind of stuck mine to be above the properties and library over here, and I can easily tell these to show and hide by double clicking on the tab there. But anyway, this component parameters is where we're going to set up the video. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to have this video component selected on the stage. And then in the component parameters, let's start with just changing the source, and then I'll show you what each of these other options do. So click the little pencil icon to the right of the source, and that will open up this content path dialog box with a little folder that you can click on to go find your video. So we just click the little edit icon next to source. Now we click this little folder next to content path. And now you want to navigate to your website folder, your project folder, inside of assets. Mine's sitting on my desktop. Now I'm going to select this MP4 file. Once I select it, it gives me the ability to match source dimensions. I'm absolutely going to do that at this point because that's going to change when I hit OK. It's going to change the size of this video components area to be the size of the actual video. Now you can change the size of the video and force it to be whatever size you make this. But in this case, I want it to be the exact size the video is. So I'm going to match the dimensions, hit OK. Takes a minute to import. And now we still can't see it. Now we're not going to be able to see it until we actually publish and play the thing. But it does make it the size the video is. And this video that I downloaded and put up in my assets, the 640 by 360, happens to be just about perfect here. It is centered on the screen, but it's nudging, kind of overlaying the bunny in motion title. So I'm going to nudge this down a little bit using shift and the arrow keys to give myself a little space here. And then I'm even going to change my title. I don't want it bunny in motion because that's not really what it is. I'm going to change this to say baby bunnies. There we go. As long as we have this component, and so adding video is relatively easy. Again, we had to create a page to put it on, to get to, because we're already in an application. And then we had to actually get a video and get an MP4 ready to use, put it in our assets folder. But once we go through all that setup, actually adding the video is really fast and easy. You just add this video component, select the video through the source, and now if we publish, start. This is going to be a little bit of a nightmare at first because our music is going to be playing. We'll make our music stop playing when we get to the video screen, but we'll just bear with it for now. Here, click view video, and there it is. Our video is playing, and not only is our video playing, but we can actually roll over it, and we've got control over the video. We can seek, and we can even press this button to go full screen and see the video full screen within our application, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to save my file, save. And I'm going to show you the different options. Well, actually, first of all, we want to stop this sound. I'm going to remove my sound for now. And then when we finish, I'm going to show you a line of code to stop all the sounds, and we'll add it back in. So for right now, I'm just going to take this keyframe that has my music on it and set it to none, so that when I play this and check out my video, I don't have to suffer through my music going at the same time. I get in here, and now I can hear the audio of the baby bunnies, day 1 through 25. Little yucky, grubby newborns, growing little bunnies. All right, like I said, we have our options here. We can even download it or get picture-in-picture. That all depends on the browser you're using. This is kind of the default HTML5 controller. All right. Now we have some options to mess with this in different ways by looking at the component parameters of our video. So right now I just have the page selected, so component parameter shows me nothing. I have to get inside of the page and actually select the component on screen, and then I can see the component parameters here. I'll drag it down a little. Well, I guess it's as far as it is. So I'll explain what each of these are. Some of them work, some of them don't. The top one, source, as you can see, that's where you go snag your video. If I wanted, I could size this video box smaller, but like I said, I had the right size video, perfect for our project, and sizing it to the size actually worked. A lot of times you'll want to resize your video appropriately outside of the program. You pretty much usually want to always do that, but sometimes you might not have control over it, or you might want to make it a funky aspect ratio in here or something like that. But you can change this video component box and the video will fit it as best it can. But anyway, we grab the video source. Okay, autoplay. This is interesting that this is limited in the same way that sound is, where as long as the user presses a button to begin the video action, it should autoplay, but it won't if it's just at the beginning. In fact, this might not do anything. We'll leave it autoplay checked for right now. The controls is a big one. You can actually uncheck controls, and then the user can't control the video, which just totally depends. Okay, so we've got autoplay on, so it automatically starts playing. But just be aware that autoplay will fail if you're trying to play the video without a button being pushed first. Okay, so now I can't control. I just have to watch these grubby little bunnies grow up. Day one. Pretty cute little blind bunnies. Day two. We won't watch the full 5 minutes, but as you can see, the control is gone. And a lot of times, that may be what you want. All right, notice when I leave and come back, disappears, sound goes away, starts at the beginning every time. Okay, I'm gonna leave the controls off. I'll leave autoplay on. Sure, we can mute it. We can tell it whether or not we want it to loop. The poster image is interesting, that if you don't have autoplay and you have the controls on, you can set an image to tell it to represent the video until the user actually presses play and begins it. So that's just an HTML5 video thing. And then the preload in class, you'll pretty much always want to leave checked to preload the video. And the class is just a CSS thing you can reference if you want. It doesn't really matter inside of this program. So really, it's just the top three, the source, autoplay, and controls. If you have no controls, I think you'd always want it to autoplay unless you have some code. Let me see if the autoplay actually works with controls on. Yeah, so it starts playing automatically even though I've got controls. But if I wanted, close these, I can turn off autoplay, leave controls on, and now it does not automatically start playing, and it's just black because that's the first screen in the video. If I were to put in a poster image, I could put in like a placeholder for it that would then disappear and show the video once we get going. Of course, you never want to leave it on not autoplay and not controls unless you plan on controlling the video through code, which you can do, but now we're just stuck and we can't see anything or control it at all. All right, so I'm going to go back to autoplay and controls, save it, check it out, and we're good to go. So now we have video, we have sounds, we have animation, using all these different symbols, graphics, buttons, movie clips. Basically, everything that you would need to know how to do to create, you know, a small project, you could do out of what we've done out of this little website. This is as far as we're going to take this website. Save your project. I'm even going to lock my video, my name layers here. I'm going to go back up to scene 1. I'm going to lock all my layers. That's just something I like to do when I'm kind of done and feel finalized with things, is lock everything up and save it. And I'm just going to kind of rest right here at this keyframe where I'm going to put that music. In fact, I'm going to add the music back in. Sound, music, make sure it's setting to loop. Okay, so now if I play it, I'm going to save again. Now I'll hear my music. And the last step I want to do is I want to make it, when I get to the video, I want the music to stop. All right, now there's a piece of code to do that. just fix our sound here. So I grabbed that piece of code. I'm going to go back into my websites, Bodacious Bunny's website, and I don't really even care about the sound starting back up. So if I get to the video and the sound stops, and then I go back home and start going to pages again, I don't care if the sound's not going to be playing. Maybe if this was a real app, I would care and put some extra code to make that happen that way. But for this, all I want to do is I just want to stop it when it gets to the video page. All right, so I can do that by putting the code on this actual frame so that as soon as I push the button that says go to and stop my video label, so as soon as I get here, I can put some code on this frame that'll run when it gets there. So if I just paste that in, create.js.sound.stop. Now create.js is the name of the JavaScript framework that Animate uses, and there's a sound module within it, and this is just how you tell it to stop. Now what this will do is it doesn't matter if you have 50 different sounds playing at the same time in some kind of multi-layered horrific nightmare. It will stop every single sound you have going on at once with this one command and just mute everything. And that's all we really care about right now. So putting that in there, now I'm going to test it out. It should work. Got our music. That's great. Gonna view video. And there we go. The sound stops. And now we can hear our baby bunny sound instead of having our music all over it. We go back. Doesn't start. We can still hear our button clicks and all of our page transitions, which is just fine.